So this is what happens when you take a Ford Classic and you engine swap to a modern day Japanese Honda screamer of an F20 S2000 engine. Let's have a look round because I'm super excited to see the details which has gone into this beautiful classic Ford Escort Mark II. Think about the red and the black line. That is where he's adding ignition timing to see if it picks up power. And then now what he'll do is he'll add some more ignition timing to see whether the graph rises again. And then he'll keep doing that until basically it plateaus and it stays the same and it's making no more power with ignition timing. So who doesn't love a Mark II Escort? And this one is absolutely arrow straight. It is beautiful. And as the interview will say, this was found in Portugal, obviously a rust-free Escort, which is obviously a super rare find these days. As we all know, an Escort Mark II either runs something like a Pinto, a Cosworth or an XE. But now with these new Japanese engines all coming through, like the K20s and now the F20s out of the Honda S2000, they are super reliable, super high revving, and a cost-effective way to make the around the 250 to 300 horsepower mark that a lot of these Mark II Escort rally cars want. And this is no different. So some details to pick up in the engine bay. It has a full plumbed-in fire extinguisher for regulations, obviously for the rallying. Obviously you've got the external fuel regulator, you've got the individual brake pots, and what looks like it's on a hydraulic clutch, so it's sort of got an individual clutch pot. It's on this wonderful Simpson Racing exhaust. So moving on to the inside, it's exactly what you would think a rally car to be. It has these beautiful Cobra Motorsport bucket seats and then just a nice simple switch panel that tells you everything you need to do. Everything is just super clean and super crisp. So the common route with the Escorts is always XEs, Cosworths. I know the Hondas are coming through now.
Yeah.
Why did you pick the Honda engine?
It's a reliability more than anything. We had contemplated the Cosworth engine, the Duratec, you know, to keep it Ford like we would have wanted to, but having spoken to numerous people for the reliability and, you know, an easy sort of 250 horsepower, you know, the Honda was the best option.
So then what are the goals today? Why are we EFI and what are the goals?
Just to make sure it's running to its best ability. We're not really chasing for figures. It's just the same again with stage rallying. You know, you're just looking for the reliability.
So the car's now been set onto the dyno, and obviously Chris is starting to map it. So to tell you how these are mapped, because I've learnt this through previous cars that we've watched VTECs being mapped, he maps them in kind of two stages, because in theory the car has two sets of cams, low cams and the VTEC cams. So he'll map it from basically 0 to 6,000 RPM, do the sweeps, make sure that map's fine, and then what he does is he puts the VTEC on at around 3,000 RPM, maps that. He'll overlay the graph, and he'll see where the VTEC needs to kick in, the graph will tell him, the dyno will show him. So what we're seeing is, as we spoke about, we're seeing the low down. So Chris is working from technically idle up to around 6,000 RPM, taking it in steps, going from like 2,500, checking the map, 3,500, checking the map, and just working his way up till he gets to the 6,000 RPM, and then he'll start doing power sweeps, so then he can fine-tune ignition timing, so basically he's got the optimum on the lower cam. Then we'll switch over to the VTEC, the higher cam. So the first sweep from basically idle to 6,000 RPM, Chris has obviously done all the part loads, worked through the rev range, now he's sweeping to basically just fine-tune ignition timing and make sure that off VTEC cam profile is where it needs to be. Then we'll switch over to the VTEC. But it's super interesting for me anyway to watch this process on the fact of seeing that you've got to do both profiles of cams rather than you've just got to do, I don't know, surmise idle to 4,500 revs and then map from 4,500 revs upwards. So let's watch and let's see how we get on. So that's all the lowdown done. Now it's time to turn the VTEC on, turn it on at 3,000 and then see how that one progresses during the map. Let's get in, because this is where it starts screaming. Think about the red and the black line. So when Chris overlays the two graphs, the red and the black line, that is where he's adding ignition timing to see if it picks up power. And then now what he'll do is he'll add some more ignition timing to see whether the graph rises again. And then he'll keep doing that until basically it plateaus and it stays the same and it's making no more power with ignition timing. That's what you're seeing there with the two graphs overlaid, and that's what Chris is looking at. What's interesting, we've ended around the 250 horsepower mark, I think 248, 249. So what Chris tells me is on his dyno, a stock F20C will do around the 225 horsepower. So what's interesting is, so with the GMV throttle bodies and a Simpsons exhaust, it's only picked up 25 horsepower. Now, Chris basically tells me that he sees this a lot, that the factory exhaust manifold and the factory inlet manifold is that efficient and that well made for the engine. Sometimes you could put an inlet manifold on and it'll lose horsepower. You could put an exhaust manifold on and it'll lose horsepower. But obviously, the owner of the car knew this anyway, but because it was in an Escort Mark II, he was adamant he wanted that throttle body noise. Plus, Chris tells me throttle response on this thing for rallying and for that type of thing will be far, far better than a single throttle body inlet manifold. Just super interesting thing to know, obviously with Chris mapping all these cars to find out the differences, and sometimes modifying isn't better. Stunning build, mate, stunning build.
Thank you.
Obviously, it's your dad's. You're
Is.
just a transporter for the day. You're the son, the co-pilot of the car. Where does all this start for your family? As in, I'm guessing you do rallying in it?
Yeah, we do various forms of rallying, stage and road rallies. We sourced, the Escort about 8 years ago now from Portugal, and we've restored it, and got it to where it is now.
Why Portugal?
Because actually we have regular family holidays to Portugal, so we were on holiday. And we were just going through a local village and we spotted this standard 1.1 Sport, in this village, and we were like, let's go and have a look at that and find out whose it is. About 10 days later, we'd got it transported back to, where we live in the UK.
Wow, the car's over there. It's so clean.
It was in very good condition, really. It was standard, but there was very little corrosion on the body.
What's it like co-driving for your dad? I guess that's a bit of an adventure, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely a different experience sitting in that side of the car. We're lucky, we've worked together, for a long time, so we have got a good relationship. But it's just having the trust in somebody else, pressing all the pedals and you doing your job. So we've been okay so far.
So we'll sign this video off. The car's done, it's back on the trailer, successful tuning session. Been very interesting, obviously, to see how well these engines are from factory, and now what we would surmise as, I don't know, I'll go back to my Vauxhall era. You put a set of say 48 throttle bodies on and an exhaust, and you're gaining a good 50-60 horsepower, where these things, the Hondas are that well tuned, they're not picking up very much. Super interesting, super nice car, super interesting backstory. Would love to see this back out on a rally stage and go and watch them sometime and get some in-car footage, because it does sound amazing at 9,000 RPM. So we'll sign this video off. I hope you enjoyed that, guys, and I'll see you all on the next video.